everyone, it's Julia, and thank you so much for joining me today. I have been working with thrifted blue jeans, and I thought I would show you in this video a couple of the bags that I've been creating, and then I'm going to try to do a couple other videos of other projects that I have been making with blue jeans. So let's get started. This is an example of the bags that I've been creating. I get two of these smaller crossbody bags off of each pair of blue jeans. They're made from the top of the blue jeans, and one of the side seams is the actual side seam of the blue jean. I do have a snap closure. They're fully lined. And what's so fun about these is the actual pocket of the blue jeans are the pockets on the front of the bag. I love adding my touch with different fabric collages. This bird is a die cut from my Sizzix Big Shot, so I just ran this die cut through my Big Shot and created this fun little applique that I free motioned on. On the back of this one, you can see the front pocket, and also just a fabric collage and just different things. Another thing that I found that I really have been enjoying is adding some of the cork for embellishment for these little bags. The cork doesn't fray, and it really sews really well and is quite sturdy. For instance, I'm able to add the cork as a loop for my D-rings, and just really slick and easy. One thing I found when working with these is the blue jeans are, I wanted to leave as many of the blue jean elements as I could, and sometimes it just was hard to sew through. And so being able just to be creative in how you add the loops is a bonus. And I'm going to just go over some of that. We're going to actually be creating one. Another thing I've done, like on this one, is I've used the actual loop of the blue jean top and then use a little swivel hook to attach the strap. I also wanted to show you how I'm making the straps. The straps are quite long. I do make them approximately 54 inches or so, and they are adjustable. This one I actually put a vintage buckle on it, and this one has just one of the adjustable little slider rings. And I will be going over that and how to do that. It's really easy, and it makes it so that it's you can use, if you're tall, you can use this. You can use it crossbody. If you just want to use it as a shoulder strap, you can adjust it to that. Each one also closes with a snap, so we will be going over how to do the snap. And so yeah, let's get busy. This is the pair of jeans that I'm going to be working on, and actually this is a pair of shorts that I picked up. And we can get the two different bags off of one pair of jeans. One of the bags is going to have the zipper, and the other one is going to have the fun little double pocket. Also, this is a pair of Levi's. The side that does not have the pocket also gets the back pocket with the Levi tab, and this one has this on it, the actual label, and I might have to remove this and put it someplace else in the bag. I certainly wanted to include it, but it might interfere with the snap on top, so we'll see how that goes. But the first step is cutting this, and we'll go over that step next. The first thing I'm going to do is cut down the front of this. Now, one of the bags is going to have the zipper fly, like I mentioned, and the other one will not. But it's really hard and difficult to sew through this entire zipper fly. And so I want to give myself a little seam allowance. So we're going to be concentrating on this bag first. When I'm cutting this front, I'm going to be cutting, so it's about a half an inch seam allowance on this side of the zipper fly, just so that I have enough seam allowance for this bag. This bag is going to be a little bit narrower. Likewise, when I cut the back side of this bag, I want to again allow that seam allowance, and I have this big seam that goes right down the center back of these jeans, and so I'm going to be allowing that 1/2 inch on the right side of this seam allowance. I placed some Wonder clips across the top to hold the front and the back even across the top. Now I'm going to be cutting across the bottom of this. My finished bags measure 10-11 inches usually. So I'm going to cut this, I'm actually just going to cut this at about 12 inches because I can always trim that off later if I want it a little bit shorter than that. I'm just going to draw a line here. I'm using a Mark B. Gone pen, and then I'll be cutting across the bottom of this. Now when I cut that bottom part off and I cut through the crotch seam, this gets a little bit wonky. But once you flip it and you turn it and you actually sew the side seam in the bottom, it works out. Just trust me on that. It just seems to work out just fine. Now on to this one. This one cuts much easier. You want to make sure that all this inside stuff is out of the way though. You don't want to cut through those pocket linings. And again, I'm going to be just cutting straight across. Putting a couple of my clips on the top to keep the two layers together. Measuring down approximately the 12 inches. And then cutting this right where I've marked it. Both of my bags are cut out. And now the fun part is, and this is where I do all my embellishing. I just open them up and lay them flat, and we'll see what I can come up with. I'm going to dig through some of my scraps and some of my laces and trims. Also pick out the lining fabrics and also the fabrics that I used for the straps. Now notice on this one, I have actually 3 different colors of fabric for the strap. And those are the 3 colors that I used in my design and in the lining. So that certainly is an option that you might want to try, especially if you're using up smaller pieces. Here's some of the items that I came up with. I was lucky enough to come across a whole pack of shirt plaids at a yard sale this summer. So I picked those up. I think I got all of this for $3. So that was a real find, and these are big enough for the lining of this bag. So this is what I came up with for this one. I'm going to use one of the prints for the lining, and I think it's going to be this one. And then 3 for the collaging on top of my on top of the bag. I also grabbed just different embellishments. I have a fun lace, a yo-yo, and this fabric that has sayings on it. And I was thinking of maybe it's a good day to have a good day. I love that one. I might add that to the front. Probably will add one to the back as well. Maybe don't put off your happy life. I like that one too. And so I'm going to be going ahead, and I think I'm going to complete this one off camera and show you pictures of it. And I'm going to be working on bag number 2 with you. And this is what I came up with for this bag. I had this feather fabric and enough for the lining, so I'm going to be using this one for the lining and part of the strap as well. This also is just a fun fabric. I've used this before in one of my tutorials. It just has numbers on it. I also have this fabric that has rulers and yardsticks. I thought that would be just another little element I can add. 2, I did a video a while back, and I'll link it down below, and maybe up in the iCards also, but I have leather feathers, and I cut these with my Big Shot. And I have a little lobster claw hook on it. So I'm going to hook that on to bring in this feather theme. I also thought I would use cork on this bag and cut an arrow, a couple arrows out of it. I have this Artful arrows alteration by Tim Holtz Bigz die, and I'm going to link all my information down below and all my supplies so you can take a look at all that. But I think I'm going to try to incorporate that in there. I also want to use some rubber stamps on this one, and I'm going to be using the rubber stamps from the Unity Stamp Company. I used to subscribe to their monthly kit. It was so much fun. Every month you'd get a kit of stamps. That's how I really built up some of my kits, my supplies on my stamps. I really love their quality of stamps, and I will link their site down below. But this kit came from their January 2016, and it's called Free Spirit. And there's different arrows and different stamps in here, and I'm gonna stamp a little piece on a muslin and incorporate that in my design. I will be using the archival inks from Ranger. They are waterproof, so they work really well on fabric. So let's get started. Right off the bat, I changed my mind on using this fabric. I tried to stick it in the pocket and didn't really like it. And so I added this arrow trim that I found, again, in my stash. I've had it for a while, and I really enjoyed that, working with that. It's almost a cotton denim type fabric. Added it both to the front pocket and the back pocket. And then this trim that I found at a garage sale, and it's a faux fringe. It's not leather or suede. I believe it's polyester. I'm just running these arrows through with this cork through my Big Shot, and it works wonderful cutting little die cuts with this cork. Onto the stamping, I stamped this Free Spirit onto a piece of natural colored muslin in several different colors, and then just used my pinking shears to cut them out. I didn't know which color I wanted to use, and I did go with this pink. This kind of adds with that piece of trim on that feather. Got everything laid on and sewed them using a free motion. And now I'm on to just closing up my bag. I know this is going quickly, but there's more pictures at the end if you want to just take a quicker look on that. Use a 1/2 inch seam allowance to close that bag, and then also did the corners and the bottom of it. Just box the corners of the bottom of the bag. Adding a little bit of stencil to this just because I thought it needed a little extra. I do not have the name on this stencil. I'm more just aware of saving my packaging now that I'm doing YouTube. But I do not. This is an older stencil I've had in my supplies for a while. I'm just using a dark brown archival ink on that stencil. On to making the straps. I want my straps to be 3/4 of an inch, so you take that times 4. So I'm cutting my straps at 3 inches. And then mitering my corners, so I have one long strip. I usually draw a little line just so I know what I'm doing when I'm at my sewing machine. Folding my little straps and turning down the edges. I love using school glue for this, just to keep everything as a basting. It sews through. It doesn't gum up your machine. It sews wonderfully, and it really adds more of a crisper, professional look to straps. So I'm just using my iron to quickly basting and setting that glue. And then we'll be edge stitching both sides of this strap. Onto the lining here. I have 2 pieces of lining that I use, and I just lay my bag out and I cut it, giving myself about a 1/2 inch on the sides and the bottom and 1 inch at the top. You do not want your lining to be too small. I usually give it a little bit extra. It's so much easier to ease in the lining, or maybe making a little tuck when you're sewing in that lining piece, versus having having it too small and having to ease in the denim, which is almost impossible to do. adding a little pocket here for the inside, and just pinning that on in place, and then top stitching that down. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew my lining piece, the sides and the bottom, opening up my seam allowances just to make them nice and flat. And then I also boxed the corners, the bottom corners of that, and trimmed it. Turning that inch down on the top of it, and then putting my wrong sides together, using my Wonder Clips again to clip that all into place. And then we'll be sewing the top of this. Goes together really slick. Each one of these bags are a different size, and so I don't really have measurements to give you. Now it's onto that magnetic snap, and there's 4 parts to the snap. These 2 washers, and then a front and a back part. And I just lay that washer on, do the marking, and then just take my seam ripper and get those holes. Putting the washer on, and then using just a needle nose pliers to get those nice and flat. Measuring up and then getting that back washer in place and that back piece of that snap. And again, using my pliers to get that down. Now those washers show on the front and the back side, and I don't want that. And so I'm cutting a piece of this cork 1 inch by 2 inches. And we'll be sewing that, just edge stitching that on the top to cover those washers. So sorry about the glare there. Those rulers are so shiny, and it's just really hard not to have a glare. But I'm cutting those down. Again, cork is amazing because it doesn't fray, and it's just a nice little touch to these bags. So covering those up, and just will be edge stitching those. Now we're on to this part of the strap. I have the 2 swivel hooks, and I also have this flat slider. I put one end through that swivel hook and then stitch the edges together, so that one's secure. And now this end, you slide that slider in, so it goes through that, and then I move it down a bit, and then it goes through the swivel. Just getting that into place there, and then this end goes underneath again that slider, underneath the metal part, the center part, excuse me, of that slider. And it just takes a little bit just to weed that in there. And I'm just kind of digging it out. And then again, this will be just stitched into place. And then hooking it. And there's the bag. I hope you enjoyed this. It was quick and fun. Bye for now. Enjoy the photos. I have photos of all the different, the 2 different bags, front and back. And I hope you have a chance to create today. Again, thanks so much. Bye.